Welcome all of you new listeners from Kineticon and Otakon. Before we get any further, I just want to point out that this is not a normal episode of Geeknights.
No, it is not. It is nothing like our normal episodes, and you can listen to this if you want. It's probably going to be entertaining in some small way, but you should not judge our show based upon this episode.
Or even pretty much anything you hear this week, because in fact, we're out of town. Con season's over for us until December. So we're relaxing and planning the future of Geeknights in Wildwood, New Jersey.
And we recorded a bunch of little things in advance, or acquired them in advance, and we are playing them for you this week via the magic of computers.
And the internet.
So these are recorded at least a week ago, and you're just listening to them now. So don't judge us on these.
Yes, if you want to hear what Geeknights is really about, just go to the website, www.frontrowcrew.com.
Which you should have already been to.
They might have just gone to iTunes.
They
it's
might
hard
have.
to say. But listen to any episode, any one that does not have the word special in the title, because special is code speak at Geeknights for Rim and Scott are out of town or too lazy to do a show.
And while you're at it, try to pick an episode with a topic you care about.
Yeah, and just real quick, I'll let you know that Geeknights is actually 4 different late-night shows. Monday nights are science, technology, computing, all that sort of stuff. Linuxes, Ubuntus. Tuesdays are gaming, so like German board games, or I guess we don't want to offend that nerdy guy from Kineticon, so tactical Euro-based games.
I don't know.
Yeah, and video games and all that stuff. Wednesdays are anime, the one you probably care about the most, and manga and comics and all that. And Thursdays are pretty much just whatever else we want to talk about, kind of the op-ed, rants and raves.
Yep. So, today we're just going to talk about a little tiny thing and get this over with. So, I was looking around the room for something to talk about, and I said, hey, Rim's got a mouse there. Let's talk about computer mice.
See, Scott and I differ on mice in one way, though we also agree on another thing very much, and I'm just going to get this straight out.
Okay, well, first of all, mice that are not USB suck.
Yeah.
Second of all, mice that are not optical suck.
Third, trackballs are awesome for very specific things like Rampart, or if you have carpal tunnel. They otherwise suck.
Yes. People who talk about trackballs like they're so much better is like, whatever, dude. You got a problem.
They're not as bad as those Dvorak
yes.
people.
Tablets are okay as a pointing device, but they're not mice, so they don't count.
Now, the real big thing I want to get out there is that you pretty much should be using your mouse at the highest sensitivity you can bear. Because, one, that'll prevent carpal tunnel as far as I can see, because you're not moving your wrist hardly at all. I mean, I flick my fingers, just my fingers, a half an inch, and I can cover my entire screen pretty much.
Yes, mouse sensitivity is basically the rate, basically if the mouse says I moved an inch, then that moves the arrow on the screen a certain distance on the monitor. If you have low sensitivity, then like moving the mouse an inch will move the arrow on the screen an inch, which means you have to pick up the mouse and move the mouse around a whole lot in order to move the arrow on the screen around a whole lot.
Also, if you got to move it slowly like that, you're going to be turning your wrist and twisting your wrist and moving your wrist.
And you're going to be using your whole arm to move that
You
far.
shouldn't be moving your wrist when you're using a mouse. You're going to hurt yourself if you keep doing that.
If you turn your sensitivity way, way up, right? Sure, at first it might feel like the mouse is out of control because you move it even a little bit and the arrow flies all over the place out of control. You can't aim at anything. But
just increase it gradually and you'll get used to it.
If you practice with it, you can just use your thumb and your pinky to move the mouse like in millimeters.
And yet, you still have the fine control due to things like acceleration.
Yes, you have precision control over the arrow on the screen while barely moving your hand at all. And that's the way I say it should be, and you should learn to do that.
But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. You don't need a lecture from us on that topic. You need a lecture from us on a bunch of other topics. So, there's only one kind of mouse that I will use, and I can't stand any other mouse. Mice have to be the standard mouse size or smaller, and they gotta have 2 buttons and a scroll wheel in the middle and nothing else.
I need a mouse with more buttons, and I need a mouse with wireless, and I need a mouse with the fanciness and the comfort of the hand.
See, the problem is a lot of cheaper wireless mice, there's a tiny delay that just bothers me.
That's a cheap wireless mouse. You gotta get a high-quality wireless mouse, or it's not worth it.
See, now, I don't mind the thumb button so much, or even the pinky button, but
the pinky button is no good.
I think the real problem for me is that any mouse that has all these things, it's like all modern fancy mice have this big hump in them, especially the wireless mice, because they stick the batteries in there. And I don't like the palm of my hand to touch my mouse. It really bothers me.
Oh, I don't know why it bothers you. I like the mouse
I touch my mouse at any given time with all my like the tips of all my fingers, and no other part of my body ever touches the mouse.
See, I like the mouse to feel like a glove on the bottom of my hand. Like if they made a mouse with like finger grooves and everything.
That's bad, because if the mouse is touching the palm of your hand, you cannot prevent yourself from moving your wrist back and forth at least a little.
Yeah, I can.
How?
It just slides on my hand.
I'm not seeing it.
I don't know what your problem is.
I don't know. I think you use mice weird.
I don't know. I think you use mice weird.
I use mice in the most possible awesome way you could use a mouse.
No. But anyway, I have the Logitech MX1000, and I think it's a pretty awesome mouse.
I have these well, there used to be back in the day, there were like 2 Logitech mice that were optical. And there was the normal one and the slightly fancier one. And I bought the slightly fancier
let's
one.
talk a little bit here. My original mouse that I had, well, okay, I first had an IBM whatever, right? And I had like a Mac mouse with 1 button. That doesn't count. The first mouse I bought was a 3-button, no-wheel Logitech Wingman gaming mouse. It was a wired USB mouse with a ball, but the ball was like double-sized for precision gaming. And that was the height of mouse technology in those days. It was such the height of technology that the mouse cost $50 and came with a free game. That was awesome. Then I moved on to, Logitech optical mice with 2 buttons and a wheel. And then I moved on to the MX1000 that I have today.
I've been using the same mouse since 1999.
Wow.
And I'm still using it right now.
I thought you think you bought a new version of the same one, right?
No, I bought a new keyboard.
I thought you bought the same mouse just again.
No, what I did do, I don't remember that. I remember buying the same mouse to use on another computer.
I think that isn't the same mouse, but it's the same model.
I'm not sure, because it's pretty beat up. I don't remember buying a new one, but I might have been forgotten. But
yeah.
I do remember that I used the same keyboard from like 1996 up until my junior year of RIT, where one day while I was playing Tribes, it just stopped.
Yep. Well, the reason I liked the MX1000...
No, it wasn't even Tribes. It was like Counter-Strike.
Yeah. The reason I like the MX1000 is, first of all, you can just charge it in a cradle instead of batteries, which is nice.
I hate batteries.
Yeah.
At least I don't like
If
batteries.
I'm going to get a wireless mouse, it better not have batteries. Well, actually, the wireless mouse that goes to my laptop has batteries, but that's obvious.
That's different.
That's different. 2, you can move the scroll wheel left and right for some horizontal scrolling action, which you can actually get used to. It's pretty nice. 3rd, it has these extra buttons on it, but the extra buttons aren't clumsy, and they actually click solidly. And when I'm playing an FPS, I can actually get a lot of extra functionality out of them. And some of them are, I can push some of them simultaneous with other buttons. So, like, I can use, a button on the keyboard to say jump normally. I can move that to the mouse, and now I've got an extra keyboard button within reach, and I can do a lot more FPS controlling with moving my hand around the keyboard a lot less. I keep my hand in the same spot, and I can do a lot more things.
See, now I think this might be why we have different tastes in mice and why I don't need the extra buttons. The way I set my hands on the keyboard, I've never, in all the FPSs I've ever played, not had a key ready to go. And I can do all the things I need to do simultaneously as it is. So.
Yeah, well, in some FPSs, I can do that even if I have, a 1-button mouse, because I just need the 1 button to shoot, and I've got buttons for everything else, on the keyboard. But some FPSs are really complicated, and sometimes I want buttons to do crazy things. And sometimes it's not an option without extra buttons on the mouse or moving my hand around. Like, FPS, especially FPS with inventories, with full of items.
Yeah, but even then, I think part of that is that you put your hand over by the arrow keys.
No, I put it by the WASD.
Oh, the WASD. But there's plenty of buttons there. What's wrong with you?
I need more buttons.
There's plenty of buttons. I've never run out of buttons.
The other thing is that a lot of the buttons I would like to use are, too far away from the WASD, or they screw up because gaming is in Windows. Like, the window key fucks everything up, and the alt key fucks everything up. And
Alt doesn't. I don't have any problems with that.
I do. I have problems pushing alt in...
Plus, I use alt to duck. I've used alt to duck for as long as there's been ducking in FPS.
I use a lot more keyboard shortcuts than you, and a lot of them are global keyboard shortcuts. So I can't use those buttons in FPSs.
But you play FPSs in Windows. Why would you have those shortcuts in Windows? You never use Windows.
I use Launchy in Windows.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I can't push like alt and space at the same time and stuff like that. And you'd be surprised that actually comes up.
You know what? I don't have Launchy on my PC at home. I only have it on the PC at work because I only boot into Windows to play FPSs. I never run anything but Steam.
I use Launchy to launch my FPSs.
but Steam starts when I boot. Basically, Windows is not Windows. Windows is just Steam. When I boot, Steam starts.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Even so, I need lots of buttons, especially like if I'm playing Tribes 2, I need lots of buttons. And I like to put some buttons on the mouse. I put jump and duck on the mouse.
I don't know. I put move forward on the mouse and shoot.
Oh god, I put move forward on W.
See, move forward. I use the same setup.
And then that's the other thing. I use like Q to go fast, and then like tab to walk slow, and then control. Remember control.
All right.
Caps
I think
lock
we need to do a show on the setups we use in FPSs.
I think we do.
Because I really want to talk about the merits of mine. I've got a pretty good
think
system.
about that, though. FPS is the most important factor in deciding what mouse we buy.
Yeah. You know what? It was always that way.
Because without FPSs, I can use a 2-button scrolly wheel, and I'm done.
Before FPSs, I didn't even notice what kind of mouse I had.
Yeah. But yeah, computer mice. Optical is important.
Whatever. This wasn't the best episode.
No, it wasn't.
What do you want? We're on the beach. In fact, we're probably playing a video game at the beach right now on our DSs.
And those DSs don't have mice.